So we just discovered that we have to ditch some suitcases. The airline only takes one. Well, they do take a bunch, but they take more than one, but they charge extra now, and they charge so much that it's prohibitive. However, everything's not about dollars and cents, because I've got like my favorite clothes now that I've already called. Welcome from Frank and Angie's channel, where we discuss the retire early lifestyle, whether it's at home or abroad. All right, so we're still in our $300 apartment here in Cuenca, Ecuador. But we've done some travel, and you know that we moved to Panama a couple of years ago from Ecuador after being here like 8 years. When we moved to Panama, no, let me start at the beginning. When we moved from the States to Ecuador, we only came with suitcases and the clothes on our back. Now, a lot of you know that we had a 3.5 acre homestead, house with a 40-foot pool, you know, just a life of abundance in the States. And so we got rid of, I think, 7 or 12 trailer loads. I don't even remember how many. I think it was 7 trailer loads that we just donated to Goodwill Industries. And I mean, we sold as much stuff as we could and then donated the rest of it, gave stuff away to friends. Beautiful stuff, crystal ware, gave all that stuff away and came to Ecuador. And so we did that. There's more to that story going further back, but we won't go there today. So we were in Ecuador 8 years, and then we went to Panama. We spent a few months there researching Panama. I think the neighbors are doing karaoke. Getting started early too. It's not even dark yet. They're down there. Where are they over there? No, they're over here. Because we wanted to be on the ground and in Panama, so when we did that, we just traveled with like a backpack and a suitcase. So we literally gave up our house and got rid of everything. Just thinking about my personal belongings, like my clothing and my electronics, I at least cut everything in half of what I had. I think there's videos where when we were in Unguilla, I was actually had a little office that doubled as my closet, and you could see all the clothes I had in the background in the videos. Well, I had to leave half of those behind because I couldn't carry them to Panama. So after spending 2 or 3 months in Panama and finding out what it's really like to actually live there, not just visit for a week or two, you know, because that's how a lot of people do it, and figuring out that okay, there's some challenges there. Once again, we went to Europe, we went to Italy for some travel and exploring, whatever. And after having already cut my belongings in half from Ecuador to Panama, we once again cut our belongings down to another half, or less actually. And I have videos where I'm just agonizing over just leaving everything behind, because I've done it so many times. Several times, I've already culled my clothing several times, and I just reduced it to the very core, small, best of the best clothing that I've ever had. And now I'm going to have to ditch 80% of those. I'm sitting here mourning my clothing. It's like, this is my most favorite clothing. This is got all these travel pockets on it. It feels really comfortable. It's light for hot weather. All of these are going to have to go. I'm not a 100% minimalist. You know, and that's why this is so hard, because I'm used to just having abundance of everything. I've got so much of everything or whatever I want. And it's not something that comes easy for me. And I know I know that most people struggle with this like I do, because you see people doing things like bringing their favorite things down in a container. This is something that we didn't do. So we halved our belongings once again to go to Europe. And once we got in Europe, boy, did we have still to learn, because in order to get the low price fares, you're only allowed a little carry-on, just a real little carry-on, no checked in luggage if you want to do the really low fares. So at that point, we had to get rid of everything we had. What's it really like to be a professional frugalist? that's being forced into minimalism. I don't know how we're going to win that one. People that struggle with this idea unfortunately have to resort to, because obviously you brought all your favorite things with you, and then when people leave, then they're not going to leave them behind, so they take them back again. So this is just a back and forth that just ends up costing you your items threefold. And a lot of times people's experiences is what forms their know-how and their knowledge. You know, if you learn from it and you get an opportunity to do it over and over and over and over, right? And that gives you a chance to practice and do it better and better and better. And that's how we get better and better at what we do. And that's why we even have a little course we put together just to help people, you know, just travel like a pro and retire early, better, you know, just all these things that we've learned over the course of our entire lives, because we've done it over and over and over. And I still struggle with it, because as a head of household, I've always been the provider. And as the provider, my thinking has never been minimalist. It's the complete opposite of minimalist. I mean, we're talking industrious frugalist here. I've said this in the past. Actually, I should tell you that I've been a piffy for over 30 years. I started out as a frugalist in my 20s. I started out on a fire program in my early 20s, and I morphed into a piffy and have been piffy ever since my mid-20s. Remember what a piffy is. It's a professional industrious frugalist, financially independent, and also early retired. Piffy. So the bottom line is that in Italy, I had an opportunity in South Italy to regrow my wardrobe. And I also have a bunch of electronics and gadgets that I carried with me from the States. I did carry some because they were specialty electronic stuff. I mean, gadgets that let you do things that you normally can't do, like attach multiple monitors to a laptop and this kind of thing like that. Or it's hard to get things. Like you go here and you can't find that stuff. And maybe you can now, but you know, 8 years ago you couldn't find it. So I had a whole this much stuff, electronic gadgets, that I had to cut in half. And then when we were in Europe, I left so much stuff behind in Europe. I left practically almost all of my electronics and gadgets. Matter of fact, when we first got down here, we made a video, Gadgets to Bring to Ecuador. And in that video, I had these, my favorite speakers. They were name brand speakers. They were big, this big. These speakers are a $3 to $5 item at the Goodwill. Okay, or yard sales in the States.
Cambridge Soundworks.
Look, that's 9 inches.
Okay.
So they're good sized. They were really good sound quality. I paid like $3 at a yard sale for them. And they were still working, and I had them with me for 10 years. And it was just, I just struggled, and I was agonizing leaving those things behind. Not because of the $3, but because if you go try to buy those speakers here, they're $176. Okay, so, you know, it's just little things like that. I lost count how many times I've lost everything or had to give up everything. Anyway, I've done this so many times that, and yet, even though I have done it as many times as I have, because remember, I started this conversation when we left the US for Ecuador, but there's still that part of our lives when we were in the U.S., you know, for however many decades we were in the U.S. and our lifestyle, which I'm not going to talk about in this video, but we did a sort of somewhat nomadic life until the children came in the States, building businesses and selling them and that kind of thing. And then when the children came, we settled down to a homestead. This is just a lifetime of having to rebuild, constantly shedding and rebuilding. And it becomes an amazing skill. And yet, even so, it's still hard for me to do it, because at this time, even after rebuilding my wardrobe and some of my electronics in Italy, like I got this phone in Italy, right? And it was like 30 euros. Now I had a phone I brought from the States, but after 10 years it went kaput. But I bought this in Italy, and it's all I could get in southern Italy. And it doesn't have the flash where you can get a 2 or 3 way call on it. It just doesn't have the features I really wanted, and it cost like 30 euros. I mean, I doubt I spent, I don't remember, but the phone I had in the States, I paid less than 10 bucks, and it had way more features, and it was a really good phone that I really enjoyed for like over a decade. Just to say that you can't always, in your travels, when you're doing this traveling thing, you can't always have the things, your pet things that you really enjoy having and that you are functional and practical. I left so many electronics in a hotel room in Italy just because coming back from Europe, even after I regrew my whole wardrobe, you should have seen my wardrobe in Italy. I don't know if I showed it to you. We figured out some thrift stores in Italy, and I just had to rebuild my wardrobe back to what it was before, right? Because it's like psychological. It's like, well, I had this much before, now I've got it again, yay. And then you leave Europe and you can't carry it all with you. So the bottom line is that the silver lining is that a lot of people haven't done this before, whereas we've been doing it practically all of our lives. And we've become really good at it, even though we still struggle with the idea of shedding and leaving things behind. And so part of what makes our lives less complicated and easier to live the way we do is to not be so much of a consumer. And sometimes we're just forced into it because that's all there is. You know, you're abroad and this is what there is. So, I mean, you know, people scoff and say, well, you know, you can just buy this, buy that, right? I mean, like, okay, we came in Ecuador when we first got here, and what did we do? Well, we already were with that mindset that we were not consumers. That's why we automatically clued into the solution of building our own furniture. It isn't because we've ever built our own furniture before. It's like, wait a second, being a consumer is not the way we do things. It's actually has become a habit for us not to be consumers and go out and buy. Because why? Because you're just throwing money around, you're just wasting your money. Because every time, even to this day, when you go out and buy something and then you move, you leave it behind. So what have you done? Well, okay, you've enjoyed the item, but financially speaking, you just threw money down a hole. You know, sure, anybody can throw money at things and say, well, let's just go spend money and go buy a brand new sectional or something here at the store. Sure, but then, you know, 3 years later, when you move, what happens to it? You're not gonna, you know, be able to sell it for what you paid for it. And it's just a way of life. It's a way of life for, I think a lot of Americans are like this, that they buy high and sell low. And it's just something we've learned in the long run, that in order to be able to keep our lifestyle, we just don't do things that way. And so now you know, when you see us doing something kind of unusual or a little odd, that's the reason. Because we value our freedom above everything else. We didn't wait till we were 62 to retire. We've been living the lifestyle ever since our mid to late 20s. And really, when you think about it, when I think about it, and it's just a real sense of accomplishment for me and a satisfaction to be able to experiment with different ways of doing things and thinking outside the box and doing things differently. It just adds that element of fun and entertainment and satisfaction in life. And so thanks for coming to our channel. I hope I inspired you today to think outside the box and think about what you can accomplish today by not being so much of a consumer. Thanks for watching.